Live from Sin City, it's the Socks and Pinstripes Podcast. And now, here's the star of the show, Diet Dr. Griffin!
Jackson Holliday. This is Diet Dr. Griffin back with another episode of the Socks and Pinstripes Podcast. Like, rate, subscribe, all that jazz. We're on YouTube at Diet Dr. Griffin. Jackson Holliday was the number one overall draft pick by the Baltimore Orioles in the 2022 draft. He's the son of former MLB All-Star outfielder Matt Holliday, who was with the Yankees, Cardinals, and Rockies through his solid career. People have talked about how Holliday, even as a 13-year-old kid, would impress people at batting practice, and people will be saying this kid's got a star written all over him. And he's right now just 20 years old, and he made his major league debut last week, about 10 days ago. And now we've had some time for him to play a bit, and we can talk about him. Now, funny little aside here. I drafted Holliday in my fantasy league, and one of the managers made a comment in our little group chat that they were looking to pick him up, but somebody else paid attention to the stashing guys, the prospects. And, you know, we talked a bit, and the other manager joked, he's going to go 7 for 30 to start his career, to which I said, I'd love it if he went 7 for 30. I think he meant 1 for 30. And he kind of just chuckled a bit and was like, yeah, that's kind of what I meant. And so far, we're at 1 for 27. So he's not that far off on his predictions here. Now, let's be honest. He's 20 years old. He's made it up to the bigs at a super young age. I was actually surprised he didn't even make the team from opening day because he was killing it in spring training. He hit .311, had a .950 plus OPS. Instead, they decided to send him down to AAA to get some more seasoning. He only had a handful of games last year in AAA in which he performed modestly. But this time around, when he went down to AAA, he had a .333 batting average in 10 games down there with a over 1,000 OPS. So they gave him the call up, and honestly, it was a little quicker than I had anticipated going into the season. And now he's really, really struggling up here and making people wonder if they've got the next Jared Kelenic on their hands. For those who don't know, Kelenic was one of the top prospects in the Mets system, and he got traded to Seattle in the Edwin Diaz trade. He was the major asset that the Mariners received back. And he struggled mightily when his first couple of seasons in the bigs. And at one point, he had an 0 for 35 stretch with the Mariners and got sent down. Kelenic was sent to the Braves in the offseason in a salary dump for a couple of pitchers who I believe have both had Tommy John surgery already this year. What I think people got to realize is that Jackson Holliday is still only 20 years old with barely a month's worth of games at the AAA level. He's made impressive strides to even be able to make it to the bigs, but he's not even going to be 21 until after the end of this season in December. Guys go through slumps. I mean, we've seen Francisco Lindor start 1 for 31 to start this season, and he's a guy who's made a $300 million contract in his career. The key for Holiday is how is he handling this situation mentally? And I think he's got a shot at handling it well because he has a father who's likely gone through a similar stretch in his career. I haven't gone through his game logs, but when you play in the majors for more than a decade like his father did, I'm sure he's had a major slump at some point in his career, just as he had a major hot streak. Now, in my assessment, I do think that Holiday is probably going to get sent down, but I think it's probably going to be a few more weeks. It's kind of hard to just judge a kid on 8 days, and the Orioles have so much invested in Holiday in the long run that they're probably going to wait a little while. I would say maybe another 2 to 3 weeks. Last year, they had Colton Cowser come up, one of their other top prospects. He had similar struggles in 26 games with a sub 200 batting average, and they sent him down, and now he's back up, and he is hitting on a tear. He's starting to do the things that they thought he was going to do, and I can see similar things for Holiday. Just sending him down a few weeks, maybe bringing up one of the other bajillion hot prospects they have down there in Baltimore. They have an obscene pipeline. Heston Kjerstad, for example, he's hitting .359 with 10 homers, 30 RBIs, and an OPS of 1230 in just 19 games this season. He's playing at an obscene level, and it would be shocking to me if he's not up on the team in the next couple of weeks because he's got nothing else to prove down there in AAA. Circling back to Jackson, just be patient, kid. Work through this, and I'm sure you're going to come back on the other side and be a tremendous player, but it's not all going to happen overnight. And let's circle to some news and notes around the league. Back problems and oblique issues are starting to creep up now. We got Chris Bryant, who is in the running for one of the worst contracts signed since Rendon, and Strasburg is out again with back issues. The former NL MVP signed a 7-year deal with the Rockies after the 2021 season and has proceeded to play in just 135 games since then. They're getting their $182 million worth out there, and there's another $104 million on the deal after this season. Not a good one for the Rockies, unfortunately. Christian Yelich is back on the IL with his back issues. Seiya Suzuki has an oblique issue, as does Garrett Whitlock and Carlos Correa and Jake Berger. Obliques are a tricky injury because they're hard to heal from in the side of the body, and when you're a hitter, you're hitting and swinging through it there, or if you're a pitcher, you're exerting and extending through there. A surprise to some, but not so much to me. The Cleveland Guardians are off to a great start, and they have the best record in baseball right now, 14-6. The Kansas City Royals are actually right behind them at 13-7. They've had a lot of solid pitching thus far. The New York Yankees, who I thought were left for dead when Garrett Cole was injured to start the season, they're also 14-6. Juan Soto's off to a tremendous start. He's hitting .347 with a .468 on base percentage and an OPS plus of 208. 100 is considered average, so he's doubling that mark already. While the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim of Los Angeles stink, Mike Trout is trying to remind people that he's still an elite player, and he already has 8 homers on the season. But he's basically doing it alone because he only has 11 RBI. A lot of solo shots seem to be the consensus of what he's hitting there. Speaking of the Angels, their big pitcher acquisition in the offseason, Robert Stevenson, is needing Tommy John surgery. So there's another $33 million out the window. If I were Mike Trout, I'd be trying to get off of that ship as quickly as possible. Please look out into the distance and see yourself on another team. The Houston Astros, meanwhile, are 7-14 with one of the worst records in the American League. Only the Minnesota Twins and the Chicago White Sox are worse right now. Their bullpen has been particularly suspect this year, which I honestly thought would be one of their strengths. Ryan Presley, their former closer, has an 8.22 ERA. Hader, their big free agent acquisition, has an 8.38 ERA and has multiple blown saves already in losses. And then you have Brian Abreu, who is their other hammer they have. He's got a 5.4 ERA and a 1.8 whip. I get the feeling they're going to turn it around at some point, but it might take a little bit of time. In the National League, everybody is making fun of the Dodgers for only being 2 games above 500 right now. The Dodgers pitching is not that good right now. Bobby Miller is injured. Walker Buehler's still injured. Clayton Kershaw's still injured. They've been having to trot out bullpen games, and James Paxton, who walked 8 guys on Sunday night. Yamamoto and Glasnow have pretty much been holding up their end, although Yamamoto's ERA is a little higher than I'm sure the people would like it to be for somebody they gave $300 million to. The question is for them, is their starting pitching going to be good enough to hold up for the rest of the season? And it's too early to tell. The Marlins, meanwhile, are 4-16 and basically have already admitted that their manager isn't coming back, so he's just a lame duck out there. I didn't have high hopes for them going into the season, and they have lowered already low expectations for me. The Brew Crew have been sneaky good to start the year. They're 12-6, which is a lot better than I thought they would be, and they're actually leading the NL Central at the moment. The Cubs are right behind them. They have had an excellent start by Shota Imanaga, who has yet to allow an earned run this season. We're going to find out if that lasts because he's pitching tonight. And if I can offer you guys any bit of fantasy advice right now, is just try to be patient. Some players struggle out of the gates, and it's difficult to sit and deal with that because you need to be winning every single week. But some guys get into slumps in the middle of the season. Some guys start off slow and they hit hard. And then some guys just may start off slow and never pick it up. And sometimes it's hard to know what is what. So just try to be patient with some of the struggling players who have been consistent over the years. And that is the show for today. I look forward to talking to you guys next week about all the news and notes in baseball. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.